Passport database, that you have access to this database through your school. Now, what is Passport? Who are we, Euromonitor? Before I dive into the actual system and show you how to navigate live through all the content, I will first give you an introduction to who we are, how we conduct our research, so it makes all a bit more sense to you. Euromonitor International is an international research organization that has been around for more than 50 years, and we do help clients from across corporate clients, government clients, and academic clients to make strategic decisions, whether that is a company wanting to launch a new product in Asia, whether it is a company wanting to conduct a competitor analysis, or the European Commission wanting to understand what the market for ethical products is in Europe. So we do help them with all sorts of questions they might have around markets, companies, consumers, and the same projects that these corporations and organizations are running. These, of course, are the same projects that one can conduct at a business school, university, research institute. So you can use the same data that companies are using globally in order to make strategic decisions. Now, the data that we have in Passport, in our database, is compiled by our more than 1,500 Euromonitor analysts, which are present in more than 100 countries, whether that is Switzerland, Angola, Cambodia, the USA. They are locals, they speak the language in that respective country, and they are closest to the best sources within that country. Now, here you can see an overview of all the blue-colored countries in which we have our analysts present, and the orange dots, they refer to our offices. So Euromonitor has a total of 16 offices. In Europe, we have an office in Vilnius, Lithuania, in London, where I'm based, which is our headquarter, but also in Düsseldorf, Germany. And in these offices sit our consultants, our regional specialists, which liaise closely with the local in-country researchers. And the data, though, even though we have analysts only in around 100 countries, we produce data and provide you with estimates for more than 210 countries. So you can research a lot of information with our data. Now, how do we conduct this before I dive into the system? The way our local analysts conduct the research on, for example, what is the size of the market of beer in Switzerland, or what is the size of the market of color cosmetics or mobile phones, smartphones. The way they do it is locally by, first of all, conducting desk research, so all public domain material, which they access and interpret. It could be trade press, national statistics offices, company financial reports. So that's the starting point. And then that would be followed by store check. So they physically have to enter stores like Migros in Switzerland, for example, all the major retailers, in order to assess shelf space, the different products, price and promotions. And lastly, every year they have to also conduct trade surveys, trade interviews with the whole supply chain, from manufacturers to distributors, retailers, in order to ask questions around challenges and opportunities within the market. And a lot of that insight is being fed into our country reports that you can find in the database, such as snacks in Switzerland or alcoholic drinks in Germany, etc. So this is a very exhaustive process which we conduct every year in order to estimate market sizes, brand shares, company shares, retail channel sales. But of course, in addition to all of that, we produce also regional and global briefings, company reports, etc. And it's done every year. And of course, it has to go through a long process of data validation. We have to cross-check data, sometimes go back into a market and retrieve more sources in case something doesn't make sense, or in case there has been a sharp increase in growth projections. We then have to validate that, make the data more robust before it gets published in your system. You do have the most up-to-date data in your access through your school. So the latest data is from 2023, but even in some cases 2024. So it's all up to date. Now, let's dive into Passport Live and how it looks like for you. So I will stop sharing this screen and I will jump into the database. Let me do that now. But actually, before I do that, let me show you briefly the access. So where can you access Passport through your school? It is through the Infotech website. And here within resources, especially databases, you can find Passport by Euromonitor. There's a brief description about what it covers from industries, economies, consumers, and company data. You have access to 25 countries. So here you have the list that you can explore. And what you can do is further down, simply click on the Access tab and it will get you straight into it. You should have access seamlessly from campus, but also remotely. So if you ever find any issues with that, you can, of course, contact the library for help. Now, once you are in Passport, what will you see? You will get the overview of the main landing page, and we've just actually launched a new interface, which should make searching for you much more easier than what it was a few months ago, and especially a few years ago. So we have cleaned up the database and have only kept all the relevant tabs. Now in Passport, you can search for all kinds of data. You can search for statistics, reports, such as country reports, briefings. You can search for visualization tools like industry dashboards and much more, surveys, for example. And on the main landing page, this is where most people will conduct their search from. So they will begin with using the keyword search. Probably most users will use that to get quick results. So here you can simply type in whatever you're looking for. So if you're looking for sector information on, let's say, beer, you can simply type in beer and it will give you 3 different data type results. On the one hand, you'll be able to dive into the market sizes, but there are much more statistics available. So you could click view all results in order to visualize that. You can jump into the analysis, so different country reports, for example, but there are also very useful dashboards available, such as forecast model, the industry overview, which gives you high-level trends for the alcoholic drink sector, and you can dive specifically into beer within that. And there's also a new price tracker where you can assess more recent monthly price changes even for beer. You can also be more specific if you wanted to jump into the beer in Switzerland report. You have it right here. So we could click on it and it will open up the report. And these reports are available for the 25 countries that you have access to. They are structured the same. It's all standardized data, so you can easily compare one country with another regarding a specific indicator or like that product category beer. So here we have the type of country report, which contains on the left-hand side the qualitative insight about what is happening within that market. What is the demand like, the forecasts of demand for beer, who are the main players, what about the different types of beer, which ones are the most popular ones. So you learn a lot about that sector within a report. And on the right-hand side, you have the data graphic, so the visualizations to the data, where you can look into further sub-levels. So the report, just as a reminder for the future, if you dive into any specific industry, you will find more sub-industry information in the report. So here, for example, we can visualize the performance of the different types of beer, like dark beer, lager, even low alcoholic or non-alcoholic beer, etc. So this is how you can use very quickly our keyword search. If you're not sure, what about a specific industry or company, you can also just type in a topic. For example, if you are just broadly interested in anything related to sustainability, you can type that in and see if there's any maybe broader briefings that could be interesting. So you can simply use the keyword search to search through the whole system. Now, besides the keyword search, we have our search tree, which allows for a very systematic search where you can explore all categories within Passport from across industries, channels, consumers, and economies. So these are all available to you, not just the industry information, but also macro information within economies, for example, and consumer insights. So this search tree on the main landing page allows you to visualize all these different areas. And I really recommend this, especially if you are not quite sure yet where or what you are looking for, or if you have several countries in mind that you want to compare, or if you want to explore what sits within a specific industry. The easiest way to get to it is click on industries, press go, and it will open up the search tree of all the different industries that we have available. And there are lots that you can explore. So unlike companies, which normally only have access to a few industries that they operate in, you have the privilege at your school to explore more than 25 different industries. So you can conduct a lot of different projects across different sectors. And you will see here, when I scroll down, there are these plus signs. So for example, if we're interested in the dairy sector, we can click plus and we can see that within dairy, we can be more specific and dive into, for example, plant-based dairy. And we can go even more granular to look into plant-based yogurt, plant-based cheese, etc. So there's a lot here to dive into. And besides the sectors that open up to you, you can also combine the searches with macro data, consumer data, and channel data. So within channels, you can learn about offline retailing, online retailing. I'll show you a very specific example later so you can see how that search tree works and what the results are that we get. Now, let me go back to the main landing page. So these are the two key ways of searching in Passport. And besides that, what you see here, those specific briefings, they're updated on a daily, weekly basis. So these are our latest reports, which are published across all of Passport. So it's just a way of keeping informed about what is being published in the system in terms of more broader briefings. So I think it's the top 5 or top 6 briefings across different areas that will appear here. Every day and every week, new content is being added to your access. Now, in terms of the overview at the top, so what is actually accessible? So here you have a drop-down menu if you click on industries of all the different sectors, and you can explore by clicking on a specific umbrella title like appliances and electronics. You can see these are the 3 different sectors available within appliances and electronics. Within food and nutrition, we have lots of different ones where you can explore, as well as apparel and footwear, services sectors like tourism sector, consumer food service, for example, restaurants and bars. So this data that you find within here, that covers mostly the market sizes. So what is the size of the market in terms of volume consumption and value consumption? What are the brands, the favorite brands, the main companies in terms of their sales in a country, and where do people purchase these products? If I go into snacks, for example, you can explore, and all these pages look the same. So you can explore the latest reports. On the one hand, you can dive into, again, the search tree where you can look exactly at all the product categories available. Further down, we have the various visualization tools, and on the right-hand side, we have some broader topics. So if anyone is interested in researching the snack sector, you might also be interested in learning about these broader briefings around health-conscious eating, consumer trends. So if you click in one of those, what we call pan-industry sections, you'll get broader briefings around premiumization, so these megatrend briefings, which a lot of companies need to be aware of, even if these are broad, and even if a company just wants to focus on Switzerland, they should still be looking into broader trends around, let's say, premiumization, looking into wellness trend, diversity and inclusion, Shopper Reinvented, Sustainable Living. So these are very detailed, sometimes 30 pages long, insightful briefings that will talk about challenges and trends and how this mega trend actually affects businesses globally and locally, and what are the impacts, so consumer changes, changes in consumer behavior impacting those consumer goods and service categories, for example. So even if you just focus on one country, I really recommend these broader briefings to take them in addition to the country information. Now, if I go back to the snacks page, so what you can do on this page is explore, for example, all the reports that we've published within snacks. They are ranked by publication date. So just 5 days ago, we've published one on sustainability opportunities in packaged food, or product innovation happening in packaged food more broadly. But not only do you have briefings available, but you can also you can filter this and look into all the snacks country reports. So you'll see here we have the various reports related to snacks. So sugar confectionery sits within snacks, ice cream, chocolate. So you can research all of these different sectors. Now, there was a whole batch of Indonesia reports published in August, but we could also filter here and just look for Switzerland. So we can just focus on Swiss reports. And here we have all the latest one for Switzerland that we could explore. So this is if you just wanted to focus on a specific sector and wanted to see what is available, to just keep an open mind. So if you wanted to just explore, it's quite useful to dive into those pages. But of course, most users would still stay on the landing page and just start their search from the keyword search section or the search tree that we looked at earlier. Now, you can see there are other different sections available to you, such as channels. So everything that's blue colored is accessible. Everything that's gray is not part of our academic subscription, but it's still there. But if you click on it, it won't give you any insights. It will just give you an overview of what that tool would normally contain. But within channels, you can also look into digital consumer information, like internet users, for example, or in retail, you can look at supermarkets, their sales, company shares, etc. Now, there's a very specific companies tab, which we've added newly. It's not that you've been given new data, because there's always been lots of information on companies, but this is now a very central place where you can search for information on a specific company. You can, of course, simply use also the keyword search if you want to look for Nestle or want to look for Migros, etc. But this here allows you to get some additional insights. So let's say we are interested in Nestle, we can simply type in Nestle here. And what that will give us is it will allow us to, on the one hand, export data, so data sets in Excel, where we can select what do we want, euros, year-on-year exchange rate, global brand name. We can also further down see in which sectors is Nestle or present operating. So we can see they're present in all these sectors that we cover. And on the right-hand side, we see what local company profiles are available for Nestle. So if we go into soft drinks, for example, we can see those available, dairy products and alternatives. Those are available, so we could click on them and it would get us to that local company profile. Now there's also a dashboard, a company's dashboard, so that will just purely focus on Nestle. So for the 25 countries that you have access to, you could see in which of those is Nestle present. So this focuses now the first one on pet care. So pet care's market share. Not pet care's, Nestle's market share across pet care, across all these different countries. The darker the blue, the bigger the company share for Nestle. You can also look at bar chart where all these countries are ranked in terms of Nestle's market share. So Egypt, Nestle has the largest market share in Egypt, followed by Argentina, followed by the US. But you could also change the category and look at all the other sectors where Nestle is present. And for example, assess within snacks, press go. So in which countries does Nestle have the largest market share regarding snacks? We have Israel, Brazil, Egypt, Switzerland. So if you wanted to conduct a company analysis, this is where you can find lots of information if you click on companies and type in a specific one. But of course, you can still use the keyword search. So if you're not on the landing page, but on a different page, you can simply click on search, and that will be the standard keyword search. And we could type in Nestle, and it would simply give us all the results for Nestle as well, except for that company's dashboard, for example. You don't have it, and you would have to filter. So I always recommend using the different ways, using the keyword search to explore what is available, but then for a company also, in addition to that, go into the companies tab and type in that company you're looking for, so you can make sure you've exhausted your search. Now, when it comes to macro data, we have, of course, here the consumer information, but also an extensive list of macroeconomic information. For example, in economy, finance, and trade, this covers, the indicators such as hundreds of indicators on real GDP growth, or, for example, inflation, etc. Trade information is covered within economies. So you see the page is structured the same, but here we focus on macro information. You see those those overarching topics have changed now. You can go into briefings around global economic forecasts, new economic reality, and there are different dashboards available. For example, an economic barometer with all the latest data, latest macro data. And you can, of course, again, go into latest reports where you also find pest analysis, so political, economic, social, and technological analyses. So again, here we have the ranking by date, but we could filter geography, look for Switzerland. And here we have the various reports for Switzerland, which are up to date. So, for example, the pest analysis will give you a detailed overview of the challenges and opportunities across these 4 major areas. And what is always possible is to get the raw data, the statistical data, if you want to extract it into Excel, or you can simply work with those reports and you can extract those into PDF and sometimes also PowerPoint, especially the more global briefings. So these are very insightful reports and you have them available for all the 25 countries. You can easily jump to the statistics or any other related items on the left-hand side. So you can see there are so many more reports available for Switzerland on the economy, commodities, or also income and expenditure. And you can click on View Statistics, and it will give you the raw data that is underlying to the report. So you can always switch easily between the two. So here we have all these macro indicators related to the pest analysis. And this can be easily extracted at the top into Excel. So this is how you can navigate through these different pages here at the top. So there are essentially 3 different ways of searching in the system, either through going into a specific area at the top and you can explore what is available within that specific section, or you can use on the main landing page the keyword search or the Explore Categories tab. So these are the 3 core ways. Now, if you are unsure about definition, terms, etc., there is a very useful help center. So if I click on the help center, it will open up a new tab. So if you look at a specific data like real GDP growth or beer in Switzerland, and you want to know, well, what is actually covered by beer? What's the definition of beer? In this help center, we have all the definitions, the glossary of terms, FAQs, everything is centralized here now for you. You can also go into update schedule if you want to know when will be the next data update. You will find that here. So we have, for example, we have all the different sectors listed. You can see beer, which falls within alcoholic drinks. The next data update will be in May 2025, and you'll be getting the latest 2024 data and forecast up to 2029. So you can view that here. You can go into definitions. That's often a question I get is, why is your data different to data I've received from another source. Why is your market size so different? Well, it's important to always check what is our definition of a specific indicator or product category. So here you can dive into, on the left-hand side, the different systems to see what is included in beer, for example. Because it might be that we include other areas that another source might not be, which is why you see a discrepancy in data, in market size, let's say. So this is a very useful section also if you are not sure what does even retail sales mean, what does current, a constant mean. So we have all the glossary of terms right here for you. So you can always keep this help center open next to your search. Now let's make this all a bit more interesting. I wanted to actually run a specific case study with you. The most common case study is a market entry study. So it's not only the most common sort of project for companies that use our data, but also at schools. Market entry studies are very relevant and conducted a lot. So not just in the classroom, but also for final thesis projects. If you, for example, take on the position of a company that wants to launch a new product in, let's say, Switzerland, but needs to compare Switzerland with Germany and France, they need to understand not only the demand for that product. So let's say we are wanting to launch a plant-based dairy product in honor of the World Food Day, which is tomorrow. So we want to launch a new plant-based dairy product in Switzerland, but we want to understand how Switzerland compares in terms of demand and forecast growth of this product category to Germany and France. We not only need to understand the industry environment in terms of growth, in terms of companies and brands, most popular brands, but we also need to understand the consumer side as well as the macro environment, which can impact my business. So it's a very holistic study that we need to conduct, and we need data from across many different areas in Passport, not just industries, but also consumers and economies. So we could just type in different terms and then extract data, but that would be very inefficient and time consuming. So for a systematic search that requires indicators from across different areas as well as many different countries, the best place to start is going to explore categories. So here I dive into industries. It doesn't matter which one I select out of the first four because it'll get me to the same overview. So I click here and I'll start my search by finding that plant-based dairy category. I can simply go here and assess, well, within dairy products and alternatives, what do we have? Here we have the plant-based dairy category. But what I could have also done is just simply type at the top, for example, dairy, and see all the results that I'm getting. So you can also use this as a browser if you're not sure where a specific category is in. So random example, if you're interested in mobile phones and you type in mobile, press enter, it will show you exactly where in Passport do we cover mobile phones. So that can be quite useful to simply first start by typing in a specific term. Now we stick with just plant-based dairy. And then we also, in addition to dairy information, we actually want to learn about subcategories. So within dairy, we still don't know yet whether we should focus on milk or yogurt or cheese, so we can select those. And by the way, alternative protein research is at the moment incredibly relevant. I hear research from research institutes across all of Europe, at least where I focus on, that alternative protein, precision fermentation, plant-based, etc., they are looking into all these areas. It's highly relevant. So we want to understand what is the market like in Switzerland. And further down, we have these other areas, the macro areas. So we could dive into economy, finance, and trade, for example, and select, you can select as many indicators if you like that are relevant to you, like real GDP growth. We have inflation. We have all these different areas, and you can click on plus and you can see it gives you a lot more detail. You can also always very quickly check if you're not sure what an indicator means. You can use the eye on the right-hand side and it will give you the definition. what is that? Further down, we also want to select maybe one indicator from consumers. So for Switzerland, Germany, and France, we also want to learn about disposable income, because depending on how that is growing or in decline, that can impact, of course, the purchasing power, our business if we want to launch that product there. So here we have disposable income. You can also dissect the population by income band, by household size, by wealth. If you want to focus on a luxury product, you can look into how many wealthy adults are there in a country, etc. And population data as well. It goes very, very granular, even fertility rates, mortality, health issues. So a lot to explore. I really recommend this tree. Now, for the purpose of the project, I just leave it. We have selected quite a few indicators, so you have to select indicators in order to get to the next page, which is select geographies. Now, let's choose Germany, France, and Switzerland. So here you have the overview of the countries. Here we have France, Germany, Switzerland. And then we can simply press search and it will get us to this results page. We're getting all the results based on our search. On the one hand, statistics. So all the various market statistics, company shares, macro data, but we're also getting related reports. So because we've selected plant-based dairy, we're getting those country reports, but we're also getting the pest analyses because we've selected indicators from economies. We're also getting an income and expenditure report because I've selected disposable income. So that will then immediately pull the income and expenditure report in addition to that data. So a lot of insight we can extract for our project. And then a third page is the dashboards. So here we can dive into those initial, regional and global trends before we want to assess the granular country data. So that's where you could also start. But let's go into the statistics first, and I will show you how to navigate. So we have here the market sizes, the macro data, and if I scroll down, there is one statistic overview that gives me all the indicators in one, which is the combined view. So it's a bit further down. So this way you can visualize everything. So if I click on view full data set, it will list all the countries for me and all the categories. So there's quite a lot here. I'll make it a bit more digestible. Now, what do we have here? We have France, the market. What are we looking at? We're looking at the retail value in retail selling price. So the actual sales in euro million, current prices. And what does that mean? So one would refer to 1 million euros sales of plant-based dairy in France. So that means in 2024, there were sales of 382 million euros of plant-based dairy. And you can also look at those subcategories. So the largest category is the plant-based milk, followed by yogurt and cheese. So that's how you interpret it. But of course, we have always initially the local currency. So we have Swiss francs and euros. So what we can do is we can simply convert that data. If we just want to look at one currency, if you want to compare, we can look at one currency, simply select, for example, Swiss francs, year-on-year exchange rate. So it will change, it will immediately calculate that for us. So it's more comparable. Now, let's make this even more comparable. Let's just focus on one thing for the moment. So we can use this as a filter. We can just look at plant-based dairy sales for now. Filter. So here we just have plant-based dairy sales. So in terms of the total market, Germany is by far having the largest market in retail value terms. So 1.1 billion Swiss francs versus just 123 million in Switzerland versus 363 in France. But of course, population sizes are very different. So let's convert that into per capita. So that's more interesting to us. So we want to know What about the per capita consumption? Is that really that different? So if we look at per capita retail value consumption, so volume and value combined, price and volume, we're looking at, it gives us a different picture. So we are seeing that Germans still spend the most on plant-based dairy. However, it's nearly the same as the per capita sales or consumption in Switzerland, and France by far spends the less, with just 5 Swiss francs per capita every year. So there's quite a stark difference between those three countries. So Germany and Switzerland are definitely more interesting for us. And what we can also do here is we can look at changes over time in terms of consumption. So you can go back for some indicators to 1977, such as GDP, for example. But for industry data, you can go back the last 10 years and look at the next 5 years of forecast. So you could look at quite a long time span and assess the growth, the forecasts. What you can also do is look not just at the retail value, you can also look at volume. So it might be the market might be purely driven by the price rather than the actual volume consumption. So there could be an inflation impact. So you can visualize all these other data points. You can also jump into, instead of the market size, what is the size of the market in consumption terms? You can look into the company shares, brand shares, and retail channels. So where do people purchase plant-based dairy? And you can do this for all the different products we cover, whether it's beauty, consumer electronics, appliances. So we can jump, for example, in Switzerland, we want to know which are the favorite brands. So we can click on brand shares. That's that blue icon. That's a way how we can navigate, but there are many ways of how you can get to it. So here we get the full list of all the different brands within plant-based dairy, and the most popular one with nearly 9% share of the market is Alnatura, followed by Alpro, Soyana. So you have the full list of the most popular brands. You can also look into private label. So a lot to discover here. And you could look at it just from a company perspective or see where do people purchase mostly plant-based products. So that's the green tab will give you that. If I click on that, it will give us the overview of all the different legal channels from grocery retailers to also at the bottom we have e-commerce. So if anyone ever wants to look into launching a product through e-commerce, you have that right here where you can see if there's already a market for that or not. So of course, most purchases will go through grocery retailers, which is not a surprise. But you'll see in some other countries like China, you'll see there is a much bigger e-commerce market for a lot of products. So it can differ quite drastically between countries. Now, let's go back to the search results page. So this is how you can navigate through statistic. You can extract it all, you can adjust it, you can make it comparable, you can look at growth rates, per capita consumption instead of total consumption. You could have also just jumped into an individual statistic rather than the whole full overview. Here we have also the real GDP growth, for example. And then in terms of analysis, it's what I shown you earlier as well. You can dive into the country report, pest analysis. So if I go into another example with you, for example, where do we have Switzerland, income and expenditure in Switzerland. So this is a report from our consumer section, which can be useful for any market analysis. It looks at, the disposable income. It looks at different population groups and their purchasing power, about income inequality in a country, social classes, and it also talks about regions. So here we learn about the Zurich region, housing forecasts. So a lot can be found within those different reports. If you purely wanted to, assess what do we have available on a specific country like Switzerland, let's say, you could also, we don't have a specific country tab to search for just a country, but you can simply dive into, again, our keyword search. So keyword search searches through all of Passport, and you can just type in a country like, Switzerland, and it will give you all the content available in Switzerland, and you can purely filter. So I've received this question also before quite a bit, what is available on a specific country, and it will give you all the industry reports by date, all the different statistics. So this is another way of how you can search if you just want to focus on a country without yet knowing exactly what you want to look into. So, but just to finalize my project, so I was able to find a lot of useful insights. And of course, from this way of searching, I can also within each report find other relevant ones. So I can look into the future demographic report. There is a business dynamics report. All of this just for Switzerland. So I can retrieve a lot of data to complete my in-depth market analysis. And that was possible through the search tree. Now, there is one section just to highlight, which is currently not available in the search tree because it has a different structure, but it's a very, very useful page, which is our consumer lifestyle page. So you'll find all the industries, channel, consumer economy sections within the search tree, which is looked at, except for one, which is the lifestyle section. So if you wanted to explore what is available, you'd have to go into lifestyles. And the information you find here is based on consumer surveys that we run. So for our industry data that we looked at, like the sales of plant-based dairy or chocolate sales, beer sales, mobile phone sales, we do not ask consumers about how much chocolate do you eat, how many cigarettes do you smoke, because they would be biased. So which is why we use the other methods of research, like the desk research, store checks, and trade interviews. However, we still run consumer surveys because it's a nice addition and it's still very insightful for a project. So within that consumer lifestyle section, you find on the one hand our actual lifestyle survey. So you can dive into the responses across different countries, but you can also go into the report section. So these reports within lifestyles are based on the consumer surveys that we run with those different consumers in those countries. So you get various reports per country. We do not unfortunately cover Switzerland, but we cover all other major countries like France, India, Brazil, Germany, Italy, etc. So there are megatrend reports, consumer behavior reports, lifestyle reports, and these contain a lot of insights around changes in consumer preferences in those countries. How do megatrends impact that specific country, and also company case studies are included. So you can learn about how some companies in Germany have already embraced those megatrends like convenience, digital living, and this is extractable into PowerPoint, PDF. Also learning about what shapes consumer behavior. So if you don't want to dive into the survey raw data, you can rely on these insightful megatrend consumer behavior reports for a specific country. Now, just to show you briefly, how does the survey look like? So the survey is accessible through here. So let me just show you the survey is right here. It might take a little while to load, but this is the last important bit I wanted to show you. So this survey has various different topics. We always ask approximately 1,000 consumers per country. So you can compare responses by country. You can look into survey on dietary preferences, which we have launched many years since, for example, 2015. We've asked those same questions. So you can look at changes over time and consumer responses. You can extract this information into Excel, just like what you can do with the statistics. You can sometimes see sharp differences in how people respond across different countries. For example, Japan in many cases is an outlier. You can hover over a question. For example, here we asked, I closely read the nutrition labels of food and beverages. And you can see how many consumers have responded that they agree with that. You can also change the topic if you want to look into eating habits, healthy and ethical living, leisure and recreation, shopping, and click on a specific survey that's of your interest, for example, shopping preferences. You can then press apply and it will change the view. So if we press apply, it will give us the new view. We can hover over the questions asked within that survey and assess differences in country responses, but we could also look at the results by gender. So depending on, so how have male respondents responded to a question compared to female respondents, or you can even conduct a very bespoke comparison by looking at a country, gender, and even income band, because age groups. So here we have a different survey on attitudes and motivations for shopping, and the different questions on the left, and on the right you see the different years have different colors. So you can also see maybe has there been an impact of the pandemic on different responses since 2019, 2020 compared to now. You can view the results by country or by age group, gender, and it will give you a different view, and you can then extract it. So this can be quite an insightful tool to develop new research questions, to test hypotheses that you have, and you can use this in addition to all the other data and reports that you have available in Passport. But now I would say I've talked a lot, I've shown you a lot of areas. There's of course so much more to discover. It's all about learning by doing. Just click and see what you can find by using those 3 ways of searching: the keyword search, the search tree, or going into the individual tabs at the top. And the Help Center will give you a lot of answers, especially the frequently asked questions section, the definition. So have that always open in a second tab, ideally. But now I would say we have 12 minutes left, and I would open up the floor for questions now, if there are any. You can either unmute yourself or you can write in the chat if you have a specific question, and I'll do my best to answer. You can, of course, also send me an email afterwards if you don't want to ask your question in this forum. I will just put my email into this chat, so you can send me any questions that you have, whether it's data question, methodology, navigation, coverage. I see one hand up, Nicolas Montando. I don't know if I pronounce it.
Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you very much. Very kind of you. I just wanted to ask a quick question. I was, as you were explaining to us, trying to dig in. We'll be working in a couple of our groups on the electric vehicle markets. And I found not an awful lot in industries on the automotive. Is that on purpose? Is that we haven't paid for that?
So very good question. Thank you. So this is automotive is in our section normally called mobility, which sits within services, within Passport, but our standard subscription. So here you within services, we have mobility, and it's grayed out because it's an additional system. So it when you click on it, it gives you the overview of what is covered. So such as, the sales of automotives by category, electric charging stations, etc. So that would be covered here. Unfortunately, it is not accessible. It's an additional system. I'm afraid.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Any other question? I see Diana. Okay, thank you for your question. Plant-based pasta. So we don't have the specific category plant-based pasta. However, what I recommend for this specific question is going into our section on, let me show you. So pasta sits within pasta sits within staple foods. So if we're in the search tree, if plant-based pasta has a significant share of the market or is relevant, we would cover it within our pasta report that sits within staple foods. So here we have rice, pasta, and noodles. So that would give you an overview of that area. And if we check, so this is a very systematic way of doing it. So we could double check if that report gives us those subsections and would discuss plant-based pasta. So we can go into analysis. You could, of course, have just typed in pasta Switzerland in the keyword search to get to the report. And then what I recommend is checking the, because we don't go to that granular level of plant-based pasta, but I would recommend diving through the qualitative insight on the left, and then on the right-hand side, let me see, you do get an overview, however, that is more related to actual types of pasta, the sales of that, rather than looking at plant-based versus standard. But I still always recommend checking the report that might be a more aggregated level in case there is something and in case you do not find anything on plant-based pasta. I guess it's quite a niche section, whereas plant-based dairy is, of course, a big sector already, or meat and seafood alternatives is something that we cover because that's also quite big in certain markets and a growing sector. So you'd find that, but in that case, I'm sorry, we don't have that specific one. But thank you for your question. Any other one? Any other question? I remember now just briefly regarding if you can't find something specific on plant-based product in Switzerland, if you go into a specific section like staple foods or here we have that pan-industry area where, for example, you can go into away from animals for food, and there would be hopefully some relevant briefings for you. Let's see, what do we have here? For example, away from animals. So that will discuss different sectors and developments in that area, also challenges, plant-based challenges. So these are very detailed, insightful reports that are relevant for all the different countries. Other questions? No other questions? So yeah, please don't hesitate to send me an email, reach out, whatever question you might have. And I will do my best to respond quickly. And I can always double check if you don't find something in the system. Doesn't necessarily mean that it's not there. It could be inside a report, but our keyword search option searches the title and the category name rather than the inside of the report, which is why always good to just double check with me if you are not sure you've exhausted your search. Thank you very much. I think are all the questions covered? Now you still have the opportunity to ask.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I hope it was useful. Thank you. And yeah, enjoy Passport. I hope you'll be able to leverage some of our data for your projects. Take care.
Thank you very much.
Goodbye. Thank you. Goodbye.
Take care. Bye.
Goodbye.